F is for focus, and I suppose it's really expansion of some of the ideas that we had with D, define your list. But I wrote there that try to say that fast, please. Blurry brands languish. So what I meant was, you can't be everything to everybody, and so that niche, that is an extension of defining your audience, is what do I do best? How can I gain trust? How can I talk about something that I know more about than anybody else? And so it's important to focus. So hi, Dustin. Let's talk about graphic design. I think the evolution of this infographic began when I went to, it's no longer called Blog World, it's called NMX, New Media Expo. It takes place in January's in Vegas. This past year I spoke there. And I had recently learned about Michael Hyatt. I guess I was late to the party because apparently the rest of the world knows about him. And he's trusted for a lot of reasons. Lately he's been talking a lot about content marketing and blogging. His sort of stake in the ground is leadership. But when I went to hear him speak, he was speaking about personal branding. And he had a piece, a webinar, a seminar, or a session about 5 tips. So I wrote them down, and I liked them, and I shared them, and I expanded them with 6 more tips. One of his tips was, your personal brand has to have a look and feel, and there's other tricks to that trade, like this hat, and your color scheme and your gags. I don't know, your voice, but it begins with graphic design. You need your stuff to look good. You get if your blog or your website's the cornerstone and the so to speak the lobby of what you're doing. If it gets there and it's messy and confusing and cluttered, people are going to bail and go find somewhere that's more comfortable to hang out. So if you don't have graphic design skills, I guess the bullet here is align yourself with somebody that does.
Yeah. Okay, great. H, help others.
Yeah, help others is content marketing, really. I suppose you might be able to argue that it's you can come at it from a different point of view, but you and I are both friends with this guy named Jay Baer, and he certainly has expanded his legacy by writing the book Utility, and he spells that with a Y. And so he wrote about, let's see, what's the subtitle of that book? Do you know it offhand?
I don't know it offhand. Helping? No, we can find out.
Why you should. I don't know why marketing's about helping, not hyping. The idea is he's using those 2 words, help and hype, to juxtapose the difference between old school marketing, screaming at you saying buy my crap, and new school marketing where you're whispering more likely, and you're just building trust by helping people. And so, Marcus Sheridan, who I respect very much and is a leader in the field of content marketing, he simplifies it down to 1 word, teach. Your job is to teach. And so helping others is a real important tenet of personal branding. You're gonna, again, you as the example, you're gonna sell people Google Plus services. You're gonna sell people online marketing services, but you're gonna interest them with the free stuff you offer, like an interview with me about personal branding. Very incestuous conversation we're having here now. We keep referring to the same things, but yeah, helping others is huge. You got to figure out how to start the conversation, by being the helper guy, the teacher in a specific niche.
And it's given, isn't it? Jay's subtitle is "Why Smart Marketing is About Help, Not Hype." See it?
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. So he had probably 50,000 words to say on that, and a lot of great examples of what he means. And I condensed it down to about 20 words. The central idea is you want to be a helper, or in Marcus's case, a teacher.
Okay, great. Okay, influencers.
Well, influencers is there's a long conversation that could go on there. I had a wonderful time listening to Lee Odin speak at Social Media Marketing World and talking about the makings of ebooks that involve a lot of people. And so he's done that for events. Just recently, I think it was earlier this year, Jason Miller and his team at LinkedIn did a piece called the Sophisticated Guide to LinkedIn Marketing, and I'm happy to say that I was one of the people that are quoted in there. And so influencers, I'm talking about influencer marketing. No matter who you are and when you began and how knowledgeable or good you are, there's somebody that's more than that. There's somebody that's more knowledgeable or more famous or more expert in some area. And so one of the reasons you go to events is to make friends. So influencer marketing could be you and me talking about our buddy Jay or Marcus, or it could be me being on your show. I'm about to find an audience today thanks to you. So you're attaching yourself to other influencers in an effort to gain influence.
Okay, so what tips would you have for everybody watching on how to approach that? Because something I talk about as well, about building relationships, but I'd love to hear your perspective.
Okay, well, the long version is about to be a mega post by me. In fact, it's so many words. I think it's about to be a series of 3 or 4 posts. And I'm also in the works is an infographic that I hope is going to be a big hit. I hit up a lot of the people we're talking about while I was at that event. A company called Analytica did a list of the top 100 content marketing influencers, and so I took that list and highlighted the people I know. And I asked them for tips, and that's going to become an infographic. So it's influence marketing tips from influential marketers. I was rambling there. What was your question?
Yeah, tips for people building well, not.
Oh, right. Okay, so my tips.
How to get their attention, or
yeah. The tips section of that piece that I was talking about is not done is massive, and so there's a lot of tips apply to blogging and online marketing and social media and so forth. But I think like the starter pack, it would be to identify who they are, right? So you're going to automatically know some. Like if you're a merging photographer, you're going to have your favorites, and if those photographers that are your favorites are alive, you're going to want to get on their radar. So that's sort of the follow-up tip. Do they have a blog? Read it. Do you have a question? Ask it. Do you have a compliment? Give it to them. Certainly, Twitter and Google Plus and the long list of social media allows you to get to know people without getting on airplanes, without picking up the phone. So get on their radar. And then the next thing I would say, which goes back to our H, is figure out how you can help them. Influence marketing is reciprocal, and so if you can figure out how to help somebody, while you shouldn't ask for them to return the favor, they will return the favor.
Build the relationships. Great, really good tips. I like that. And everyone's commenting about the difference between H and H.
H and H? Well, we answered that, didn't we?
We did. No. I think they're taking the mick out of my accent. I think pronunciation. They do that a lot.
Well, okay. What's the difference between an Englishman and a Welsh?
We're different country.
Different country? Oh, okay. Well, that's
actually different country. But it's all right. I don't want to turn it into a geography lesson. We're doing so well. Join, Jay.
Joins a nice extension of the conversation we're having about influencers and your influence. You have to get involved. You have to join things, and that's become so easy and really, in my mind, so much fun. To be completely authentic here, when I was in the ad agency business, I hated networking, going to meetings where the idea was to exchange business cards, and you had to be, and it's not that I'm not outgoing, but you had to be really outgoing, and you usually had to kind of be self-serving. What I'm giving you my card because I want you to use it. I want you to hire me. Now it's so much more fun and experimental to join things. So boy, I join everything. More than once a day, I join somebody's email list. About once a month, I pare that down, or it'd be so out of control I'd never make it to the bottom of my inbox. But they're offering content and they're putting a gate in front of it, so I'm joining email lists. I'm a member of a lot of meetups for business reasons and social reasons. You asked me to join your G Plus community. No reason for me to not take you up on that. There's a lot of value and learning going on there. LinkedIn groups are probably way up there amongst my favorite of things to join. You start your own clubs, start your own LinkedIn group, start your own G Plus community or circle. The more things you join, I think the more you're going to benefit from these connections and opportunities and relationships that you just talked about that are going to make you successful with the development of your personal brand.
Okay, great. Next one. K for keywords.
Yeah, again, there's a little mechanical sidebar in this thing, I guess, because I don't usually give SEO lessons. But I think when you're developing your niche and you're working on your blog and you're thinking about your content, the idea is to be specific more so than broad. So for example, if you were trying to be the world's foremost authority on marketing, you're thinking, you're going to have to recognize that you have a lot of competition, in the tens of millions. But if you are an expert on marketing through LinkedIn groups and activities and so forth, you're talking about what SEOs call long tail. And so, Google's come a long way, and the discussion this year has been about semantic search. Keywords are not exactly the same as they were before in terms of what they mean to your marketing, but that doesn't make them disposable. I think you would make a list, go going into the development of your personal brand of at least 10 keywords that are broad, and then hopefully a longer list of things that are specific that would become pieces of content you created. And no time here to give a lesson on that, but it's a mentality that belongs at the early stages of your personal brand, and then something you return to often.
Great. Oh, that's a good lesson. Next one, L, LinkedIn.
Well, LinkedIn, once upon a time, I think it was sort of like a necessary evil, like if you weren't on it, you were just sort of not on the planet or not on the planet of professionals. But now it's a lot more interesting. It's become a content network of its own. And the more you learn about LinkedIn and the more serious you take it, I was reading, did I already hold this book up? I don't remember if that was in our pre-session.
I think
this is a friend I made, again, a little late to the party, Viveka von Rosen. Apparently a lot more people knew about her before I did, but she's a LinkedIn expert, so I'm reading her book and I'm collaborating with her on something, and I've come to know her well. And there's just a whole lot to learn. I just got that book yesterday, so I just flipped arbitrarily to page 200 and something, and it said you should do like an introduction to yourself, a video about yourself, and put it on your LinkedIn profile page. I thought, I never thought of that one. I should do that.
Yeah. Keep on learning as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so LinkedIn's not to be taken lightly.
No, for sure. No, great. Just going to give a quick shout out to Cheryl and Kristen and Kenneth and Mark and Riley and Anwar. Thanks for your comments, and to Dustin as well. And this is still going on. I can see them talking about the accent. But we're going to take some questions at the end.
Hey, this isn't about you. It's about me.
I know, got to make it about Brian.
When you do those shout-out things, was that Disney? Was that Mr. Roberts that did that, or Sesame Street? Earlier you talked about Sesame Street. There was one kid show that used to say they'd always name the people in the audience.
Yeah. Well, it's great. It's great to include everybody.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So, next one, M.
Media is more complex than ever. I think I'll make this one short because we've talked about it so much. But I'm suggesting there that you identify the outlets that are most valued in your field. And so, certain people are going to spend their time and money in different places, and the more you can wrestle that one to the ground, the more successful you're going to be.
Okay, great. Quick, just jump back to LinkedIn. What's the name of the book again? Because just got a question there.
Viveka's book is LinkedIn Marketing an Hour a Day. I think that it's a book that you'll want to either read or have as a reference. But there's other experts out there too. One thing you got to be cautious of when you buy a book about social media is like they're out of date next week, because there's so many changes. So I would say 95% of this book is going to be really valid and helpful, especially if you're new to LinkedIn. But you're also going to want to look for one that came out more recently maybe, or read her blog. You'll certainly learn a lot from reading her blog, because LinkedIn's changing like crazy, like I'm writing right now about their personal publishing platform.
Okay, that's great. And I know Mark Trapagan, who's won the PYV team, is fully in agreement, and he's been talking about the platform as well. So.
Oh yeah, I met him, and I know him, and I respect his work. So it's good to get the endorsement or the agreement.
Well, he's there, and he's watching. So next one, network.
Hey, bud.
N for network.
Network, yeah, you gotta network. I said join groups. Those don't have to be online. I think when you think network, you think social media today. But I encourage you to make connections, at happy hours and your kids' soccer games and what have you. The more you talk about your profession and your brand, the more you're going to field questions about it. It's a massive personal branding accelerator when you take networking seriously.
Okay, great. Next one. I don't even know what this is. Opine.
Opine, yeah, I suppose slim pickings for the letter O, right? It means have an opinion, and it's been expressed as, grow a pair, or develop your voice, or don't be afraid to polarize people. But I have strong opinions, and people often disagree with me, and I'm not for everybody. But when you turn some people off, you turn some people on. And so Erica Napolitano, one of my favorite bloggers and brand builders, she writes, when you travel down the middle of the road, what do you become? You become roadkill. And so it's great to have an opinion. People respect you for it. You can find a lot of articles about how to get more Twitter followers, or how to start a LinkedIn group, and these are not bad things. But you're going to have an enormous amount of competition. People are more likely to remember the stories you tell and the biases you bring and the personality you use than the facts and the figures. And so I think one thing that you and I have in common is we try to be funny, and so all we can do is try, right? But in the case of your voice, particularly in writing, I say opine, because I mean you should have an opinion. You should let people know what it is, and you shouldn't be afraid of it, or ashamed of it.
That's great. And Barry came to watch my Google Plus session, so he did see my attempts at being funny.
Yeah, that's why I had to lend you my camera, right? Because I took all kinds of video of you. Like, how are we going to get this video over to you? Fortunately, it was a flip.
It was good. It all worked. It all worked. Right, next one. Well, firstly, quick shout out to Roxana and Kenneth. I don't think I mentioned you guys, but I can see that you're loving this, which is excellent. Next one then. P for photo.
Michael Hyatt's tip that came from that session I went to. Now, I suppose he's not the only one that has that tip, but he consolidates the 5 essential components of getting started with a personal brand, into 5. But one of them is a photo, and that photo should be, I think, relatively consistent. You might argue that your photo doesn't have to be exactly the same everywhere it appears on every social media, but it probably should be from the same photo session. Like, once in a while you'll see a photo of me being bald, because I am, or with a baseball cap or something. But it was by design that I wore this hat for my professional photo session, and it's become my avatar, and there are variations of it. But the point that Michael makes that I want to repeat here and include it in my infographic is it should be done by somebody that knows what they're doing. And you should look like a person people want to do business with. So I don't like, and I strongly recommend you don't use photos or avatars that are anything other than you looking at the camera, smiling, and saying, I'm a good guy to do business with. You're going to have an opportunity to inject your personality, but I don't like the vacation picture, or the pets, or the wife, or the family, or the weird little illustration, or the fist bump, or anything. I don't like any of that stuff. That's to come later in our relationship. When you meet somebody, you typically look them in the eye and smile, and that's what I think you should do here. And so to do that, you should get a professional, or if you can't afford that, somebody who's handy with a camera to do a whole bunch of photos with you. Think about what are you trying to say in your body language during that picture. If they're a professional photographer, tell them what that is. Shoot away and crop it in tight, just like these video frames that you and I are looking at, and make that your avatar.
Okay, good advice. Q for questions.
Yeah, I think the more questions you ask, the more likely you're to develop your personal brand and become good at online marketing, content marketing, any kind of marketing, even sales. It's a very fundamental lesson of how to become good at sales. And so you get people like me and you that like to talk and have a lot to talk about, and we sometimes have to remind ourselves to become good listeners. And so the more questions you ask, the more you're going to learn, the more I think people are going to take from the conversations they really are interested in me. If you ask people, what do you do? What do you like? What's your life like? What's your job like? And then you just shut up and listen. I think later, miraculously, they go, that was a really nice guy or gal.
Okay, great. Next one, recognize.
Yeah. This idea probably comes from another book that influenced me a lot called Launch by Michael Stelzner, and so there's not too many people that don't know who he is if they're paying attention to social media, and he was the host, of course, or his company was, for Social Media Marketing World, where you and I met. And him and I have talked about passages in his book and at length about that idea that the more you recognize others, again, we talked about reciprocity. I guess that could go there for R too. But the more you recognize others, the more they recognize you, and the more the sort of the cycle repeats itself. And so, that could be very simply thank you. I love it when somebody tweets thanks, Barry. It's sort of like a thumbs up. I recognize they read it, or they heard it, or they agree with me. And so I think you should make a point to recognize leaders, influencers, and even just everybody, clients and friends, and you'll be happy with the goodwill that causes.
Great.